Welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. We have beautiful sunshine out and it's chilly, but the sunshine's there. So when you see the rainbows going across my face, I'd like to say it's the natural projection of my aura, but it's not. It's the crystal in the window catching it and sending the rainbows around the room. You'll see them over my head too, where it captures it. It was a gift from a favorite client last year at some point, and I absolutely love it because it can raise the energy in the room. Crystals, anything that generates movement. So the ability to have that sunshine, even if here in the Northeast we're not absorbing the vitamin D because the sun isn't strong enough during our winter for it to actually get to our psyche, into our bones and everything, the boost it brings to the mood is absolutely amazing. And then I get this really cool light show at home. So what I wanted to talk about this week is actually connected to winter and where we are. It can be applicable to you in other areas of your life. It doesn't necessarily have to follow the seasons, but if the season's there, why not use it? So in the winter, there's a dormancy that happens. There's a rest that, like, the trees go into, a quiet space within themselves. And we think of it as simply a process of theirs, but we have the same frequency, the same time, the same need. And when last week we were getting a storm, which of course everything's got to shut down for, even though we live in an area where if you just give them an hour, most of the time you can be out. There was the usual storm panic of, are we going to make it? It's Snowpolis. And, I find that those snowstorms give us a chance to rest, to calm. Yeah, there's some shoveling involved, unless you move to a condo. Best move I ever made. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about and ask you if you are in a practice of some kind of restoration. So when the trees are going into their dormancy, when the bears are going into sleep, although this year they seem to be out a little bit longer, when they're doing all of that, they're powering down and recharging like you do with your cell phone or your iPad or your watches or your everything we plug in, your car. When we recharge them, we don't think anything of it, but to give ourselves a similar consideration and to go into that place of restoration, it seems to be something, at least in the American culture, that isn't revered and often not practiced. And I thought, well, let me just give a little reminder, especially if you're in parts of the country where it's so flipping cold you can't go outside because your corneas will freeze. That's a real thing. I learned about that this week. It scared me. Then maybe we could shift the perception of not being able to be on the go, always moving outside, from a place of being trapped to a place of what a gift that this is. And let's face it, we all have closets that need cleaning and hoeing out. That's what I did this morning in between sessions. So this conditioning that we have to always we should be doing something. And I'm sure you've heard that phrase, we're a human being, not a human doing. I love action. We know I like to be on the move, but there's an equal requirement for our bodies, our psyche, our soul even, to have some place where it's finding a calm or a homeostasis, if you will, where you could start to regenerate not just the cells of the body, but the feeling of even being capable of taking on another day. So I find that a lot of people complain about being so tired and not having enough time. Yeah, if you look at the time screen on your phone that tells you how often you are on social media, you'll see that you actually do have time. So the idea that we have to constantly be moving is a false one. And I want to bring about the idea of the restoration that's necessary for the mind, body, and the soul. We're not all going to have the same place of filling our battery pack up or recharging. If you said to me that the only way you can recharge is to sit on the couch with a magazine all day long, oh lordy, it just wouldn't fly for me. I can do a couple hours. I'm very good at holding the couch down for a couple hours, but that just doesn't work for my vibration, for my energy level. But if you said we're going to go for a walk, a run, a hike, and then we're going to have some moments where we pause and we take in the view, we talk to a tree, although they don't have much to say this time of year because they really are sleeping. And they don't like to be disturbed. So I try to be respectful of that. So where your level of restoration is going to be very different depending on what your wiring is and what you find recharging. So for someone, it might be putting a puzzle together. It might be crocheting a blanket. It could be cooking. That one I don't understand, but it could be. And it may be a meditation of some sort. It might be that power nap. For those of you that are good at power naps, I am in awe. It's not my forte. But however you can get there, I feel like there needs to be a shift in the mindset that this is something I'm doing because then it allows me to be connected to others. It allows me to really enjoy this lifetime. I think there was a benefit to not having electricity because when the sun went down, so did you. In the body, we got to reboot. And some of this choice of sitting and watching TV or being on your devices is not restoration because you're still moving your brain and activating everything and sometimes feeding yourself with stuff that's not restorative. So this week, what I'd like to suggest is that you look at your own life and where is there an activity or a lack of activity that fills you up, that actually, when you're complete with it, you feel calm, your respirations went down, your sense of joy and right in the world is there. Because without those, you eventually just fry your adrenals and then you become cranky and then that affects everything in your world. And there's a difference between restoration and hibernation. So don't think that I'm saying because it's winter you can sit on the couch and you can not do anything all winter. No, that is not what I'm saying because that would actually get you into a deeper state of inactivity. And what I'm looking for is to charge that part of you that is connected with life, that is hooking up with its first sense, its intuitive knowing that our body, as much as it likes to be in motion, it likes to be calm and it likes to be heard. So most of the time when we're sitting down and we're watching TV or on our phones or anything like that, we're not connected to life. We're not engaging. We think we are, but we're not. So it's that pause where you can ask yourself, is there something in my life that needs to shift? Can I look out and see out the door, out the window, and see just how beautiful the snow actually is? I just bought pants where I can run in this ridiculousness. And part of that is because there's a restorative aspect of being connected to nature. And if we're inside all winter, we lose that. And I think that's where some people just feel sad and lonely because they're not connecting into the earth vibrational space. So, restoration can be in collaboration with others. I just think that there's a real gift in giving yourself the space so that you can then ask, is there something else that I would like to be doing that's restorative? Maybe you need to go to bed a little earlier, and maybe you listen to a guided meditation before you go to sleep. Maybe you take out those paints that you put away all those years ago, or you listen to the voice that's inside that says, grab the pen, grab the journal, write out what's going on inside. That's also very restorative, because as you release whatever you've been holding on to, you can then open up and leave space for more fulfilling activities or pausing. Meditation, I think, it's on the highest of my list of how do you want to be calm, happy, joyful, connected to life, feel like you have purpose, have good ideas, feel as like you're contributing to the world. It's through meditation. And you've heard me say before, I do not sit for half an hour. It's just not in me. I could probably make it, but then that wouldn't be restorative. So take these chunks of time, whatever works for you. If you're more than half an hour, just like you power nappers, I'm impressed. But take that time to start asking, where's my fuel come from? So some restoration can be, are you getting enough water? And I suggested to a client yesterday, we were on the phone, and I said, wow, you feel dehydrated to me. And when somebody doesn't have enough water in their system, they feel dehydrated. Like I get cotton mouth. So I said to him, you feel dehydrated. How much water are you drinking a day? And I felt like I was talking to my husband, because he's like, well, I get water in my tea. And I'm like, the same tea that's dehydrating? So in just doing that shift of bringing in and nourishing the body, that's a form of restoring. You're restoring your cells so that they can flush out the toxins, so that your brain works, and so that you have good skin, and you get your steps in. Because if you drink a lot of water, you got to go to the loo, and every time you got to go to the loo, there's some steps, right? So it all starts to add up. Ask yourself if there are some beliefs that are in there that are fighting against this idea that I can't stop. I have to do one more thing, or the world is going to stop spinning if I'm not out there, spinning the globe. It's not going to. It will be fine. So start looking at the chatter and listening to the chatter that goes on if you simply feel like you need to sit down and stare off into space. Which, by the way, if you can stare off and just stare at the wall or out the window, not while you're driving, pay attention while you're driving, that is meditation. Okay, so don't make it hard. Don't think your brain has to be quiet. Very rarely in a meditative state will you reach that space. It happens. It's possible. It takes years of practice. So if you've tried meditation and it didn't work for you, you probably just didn't stick with it, or you haven't found what works best for you. And that eating well, getting your fluids in, activity that's not about busyness, but is about enjoying the process and listening to what's not working. If you hear that T-O-O word come out of your mouth, you need to look at what was the adjective or verb that followed it. So I'm too tired, I'm too miserable, I'm too busy, I'm too frustrated, whatever is following that, because I don't think you could be too happy. So anybody who says that, I'm like, no, let's see if we can kick it up another notch. So whatever's following that, it's the perfect place to figure out what part of your world could use some restoration, because it's giving you a flashing arrow to say, that's what we need to pay attention to. So I hope for this week that you can start to honor the idea that if I'm plugging in my phone, if I'm putting gas in my car, if I'm feeding the animals or the human animals around me, and I'm helping them to restore their natural vibration and participation in this world, where could I be doing that for myself? It starts with listening to yourself, and that's that first sense, right, that I've talked about. It's not it is about learning to connect and hear what it is you're requiring. You're not being self-centered. I would love it if you were selfish, because the definition of selfish, to take care of self. If you're looking at this and you're restoring yourself, you are naturally going to be a better steward of this world. You are absolutely going to be someone who, by nature of your essence, contributes. So then you don't have to work so flippin' hard. So look at this week and see where you can get a couple good practices into place. And it does take practice. So, and for those of you who may be, I keep hearing this, for those of you who may be retired or not doing the 40-hour week, maybe not raising kids or anything like that, you have to look more so at this, because we can get distracted busy and think that you have time and you're connecting with self and paying attention, when in fact you may not be. You may just be moving through the motions, and you may find something in that lights you up. And anything that lights us up is, by definition, restorative. So also recognize in others, because it's not all about us. It does start with our individual selves. But recognize in others when they require space, or when they are communicating that they're tired or just can't talk or anything like that, and not take it personally. I've had a few people who get pretty annoyed with me that after 8 o'clock at night, if there's any kind of communication for the business, I'm not answering you. I'm in my restorative space. I will answer as soon as I can the next morning, which is usually pretty early, but that was because it took me so long to recognize all of this, which is why I share it, because anything I'm sharing, I've pretty much walked. And I understand the pull that someone else may be demanding your attention, especially all the ways that people can get a hold of us. Okay, so if someone else is not responding, or is taking their space, or says they want to break from the relationship, or just didn't answer your text for a day or so, listen, it's not 911. It's fine. Email is not, text is not, some phone calls aren't. So if someone is restoring themselves, how about we affirm to them, that's so great that you are taking care of yourself. I'm learning to do that myself. So I feel like if we can find this balance and take the busyness out of our world, active can be there, engaged, connected, zippity-doo-dah can be there as part of your experience in this human thing. Busy's not serving us. So this week, look at that. Let me know if you need any help. I will be here, not after 8 p.m., but I will get back to you the next day. And, you have to be an example. If you're not an example, where's your integrity, right? So I wish you all the best. I hope that if you do go out, you are smart about your layering and that you are quick between destinations. So I'm staying in today. No point. So I wish you the best and thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.